Penny Black and Jill Foster here for your next pb&J card class, and today I'll be sharing a watercolor technique using our stencil designs. And the particular stencil design that I'll be using today is called Luster, and here's a look at that stencil and the card that we'll be creating. And then I'm also using the sentiment from the transparent set from Penny Black called Heartfelt. So to begin, I'm working on Canson 140-pound watercolor paper, and I am going to use some washi tape just to stick this down to my work surface. And you can see there, I pressed that washi tape onto my sweatshirt just to take some of the stickiness off so it doesn't peel up any of the paint or any of the paper when I lift it up when I'm done. So now I'm just looking at positioning here onto the card. And now I'm going to take that washi tape again and tape down the stencil. This just helps keep things still while I'm working. Now I'm going to be using Faber-Castell Design Memory Craft Art Grip Aquarelle watercolor pencils, and I really like using watercolor pencils for this technique because it allows me to get into the design, even a detailed design like this where there's a lot of those petals for the roses. I can get right in there with my watercolor pencils. So what I'm doing is I'm just applying the color within the stencil, and I'm only putting the color where I want it to be the darkest in my shading. So you'll see I'm not coloring in the entire petal, but just adding it in select areas of each petal. It helps to have a really sharp pencil when you do this as well. So there at the very beginning I did sharpen my pencil. And I just continue to do this until I've covered all of the areas on the stencil, and I used a variety of different colors. Now I'm going to take a watercolor brush and just plain water, and I'm going to blend the color that I applied. And I typically start by applying the water in the white area first and then moving down into the area that I colored. And this allows for that water that's in the white area to naturally blend out the color once I get to the area where I colored with the colored pencil. I'm not using a lot of water because I don't want it to start going underneath the stencil. And this is really easy to do. Just don't pick up too much water with your brush. You can always go in with more if it's not quite enough. And if a little bit seeps under the stencil, that's okay because you're going for a watercolor look. It's not meant to be perfect. So I just continue to keep adding that water and blending it. And it's really this easy. Now this design has a lot of detail to it, but with some of our other newer stencils with like the larger flowers, this is also really beautiful technique and actually quite a bit faster because you don't have to color in as much of those small little areas. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on all of the flowers and the leaves. Once I was done, I decided I wanted one color to sort of unify all of those roses together. So I took my colored pencil and I just colored onto a scratch piece of paper, and then I picked up just a little bit of that color with water on my brush, and now I'm just dabbing that and pouncing it onto the lighter areas of each of the flowers. And so when I do this on all four of the flowers, you get this golden yellow that's shining through, and it just ties all those together and adds a little more dimension. You absolutely wouldn't have to do this step. I've used this stencil before where I didn't do this step and it turned out beautiful as well. But I did like the way that it sort of tied everything together. I even added some of it to the leaves as well. And again, I'm not using very much water or even very much of the paint from the scratch paper. So once that's done, the fun part now is revealing the design that's beneath. I wanted to add a little bit of a watercolor background, mainly focused primarily in the center area where you see all of those leaves. So I colored again with a watercolor pencil onto a scratch piece of paper, and I'm just going to add water to that and then lift that up and paint it onto the background. And the reason that I'm doing it this way is so that the color that I apply is very light. If I would have colored with that pencil directly onto the paper and then blended it, it would be a very dark color, which is okay if that's what you're going for, but I just wanted something really light. Just a touch here, creating the look almost of a blue sky or a springtime sky around these flowers. To finish things off, I just stamped my sentiment, and once I did that, I felt like I needed some black up in the top part to tie into that sentiment, and so I'm just adding a few splatters onto that background, and I mounted it to my note card using dimensional adhesive. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. Also be sure to follow Penny Black on Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, as well as our website and blog. And here's a list of all the supplies used.